All right. Our next speaker has been educating, debating, and entertaining the Bitcoin world for over a decade. He is the founder of the Plan B Network, which is a global platform for Bitcoin education and collaboration, and he is well known for his sharp wit and even sharper logic. Please welcome Giacomo Zucco.
Good morning, everybody. I'm thankful to be here and honored to speak after a legend like Michael of the Nakamoto Institute. What is Plan B? Somebody of you may know about this name in the Bitcoin context. There is a conference in Lugano, Switzerland, which is actually happening in a few weeks. If you are around Europe by the 24th or 25th of October, come to the Plan B Forum, which is a Bitcoin conference in Lugano. But there is an entire ecosystem developing around this idea of the fact that Bitcoin can be a Plan B for our economy, for our civilization, for our technological infrastructure, and also for the educational infrastructure of the world. So the Plan B initiative is about the conference, the forum, is about adoption of Bitcoin for payments. If you go to Lugano, you can pay in Bitcoin to buy your car, to buy real estate. You can pay for your restaurant, of course, in more than 400 spots. Then there is a startup hub, basically a place, an incubator and accelerator for new businesses in Bitcoin. There is a Plan B fund, 100 million francs, which is a little bit more than $100 million on Bitcoin innovation. And the last pillar of the Plan B initiative is education. And I will try to argue in this speech that this is the most important pillar of the entire initiative, and this is also the most important focus that I'm trying to adopt for myself and my company. Right now, if you go on planb.network, you can find a lot of free education. You can start your educational journey from wherever you are to wherever you want to go inside the Bitcoin rabbit hole. But online education is not enough. In order to really get into a topic, in order to understand things, you also need still in-person education. You need to interact physically, face-to-face with other people. You need to create communities. You need to have the informational and emotional bandwidth of an in-person meeting. That's why we decided to expand from purely online courses to actual in-person courses. And instead of reinventing the wheel of just, I don't know, renting new buildings and hiring professors and then adding some administration to that because it's needed, we just decided to reuse the institutions that are already created to do that, which are universities. Right now, we started with a Bitcoin master course in the University of Turin, Italy. It's a technology course on Bitcoin Lightning Network. Then we branched off to NTUT, the Technological University of Taipei, where the new master in Bitcoin Lightning Network will start in February. And then we branched to El Salvador, where we were already educating students and developers in the secondary grade, but now we are actually starting a university course. And then finally, we arrived to the US. Thanks to the organizers of this conference, we are now launching a Bitcoin course, which is focused on economics and finance for now, but we will branch off into technology, legal, everything, at the George Washington University of Washington, D.C. Of course, thanks to Professor Aurélien and all the people inside the university. We are writing together the program. We start from economics, and we'll branch off to everything else. Now, I want to try to make the case that Bitcoin education is very important. Of course, this case may sound very rhetorical. Of course, education is important. The youth is the future. I mean, everybody will agree on the surface that education is important. But for Bitcoin is more important than for almost everything else. And I will try to make this case. Why is that? The first reason was already touched by Michael Goldstein right before, is the multidisciplinarity nature of Bitcoin. You cannot, so let's start from another framework. Everybody here in this room is using the internet. You are using it now to tweet out this is the best speech of the day. And you're using it, or you're using it to wake up your neighbor which is sleeping and everything like that. You use the internet all the time for everything. How many of you know exactly the difference between a MAC address and an IP address, internal to a router or external to the network? How many of you are really into the details of TLS, HTTPS? How many of you really know the way ARPANET started back then and evolved? So you can use a tool, a technological tool, without knowing anything about it. New generations, they are totally internet dependent, and they are totally, with very few exceptions, internet ignorant. They have no clue about the internal workings, which is not a bad thing per se. Civilization works also based on division of labor, which means that you need to be willfully ignorant of rationally ignorant of something in order to delegate it to somebody else. That's good. That's not a bad thing. We cannot be all polymaths, and we specialize in things. So that's a normal thing to do. And the same goes for investments. Of course, here we are talking a lot also of Bitcoin as a financial asset, not just a technology. Bitcoin is both. Bitcoin is a technological network and a protocol, but it is also a new form of digital absolute scarcity, which is something with a lot of financial implications and consequences. And if you think about investments, that's also a field where you have rational ignorance. You cannot really get into the deep knowledge of every single working, moving piece of your investments. You will basically create a diversified portfolio of real estate. Maybe you don't shares, stocks, bonds, and you don't know everything about everything. You need to stay on the surface in order to be effective. But I will argue that with Bitcoin, you do need, or you have the great opportunity, and you will have a great advantage into actually entering and going deep in the rabbit hole. Why is that? The first reason, Mike already mentioned it, is multidisciplinarity. You cannot really understand Bitcoin even if you are a cryptographer or an expert in distributed systems, if you don't understand the financial implication, the economic dynamics, the history of money, the property of money, the problem with fiat money. Knowing a lot about the technology of Bitcoin without understanding the problem that Bitcoin was created to solve will also prevent you from understanding the technological choices of the designs. Why is Bitcoin designed the way it is? Because it was designed to fix a problem, and that problem is fiat money. Inflation, confiscation, censorship, lack of privacy, global surveillance. So if you don't understand the economical problems and the social problems and the political problems, you cannot understand also the technological ones and the technological choices. But it also goes the other way around. If you know a lot about history of money, the problem of money, the issues with fiat money, but you don't understand the technology, then you easily fall prey of misconceptions about the technical trade-offs. That's a typical, there is a meme about Bitcoin, which is a superhero image. I've just learned about Bitcoin, I'm here to fix it. That's the typical reaction of many people. They, especially people coming from technological background. They are experts in other systems. They arrive to Bitcoin and they see Bitcoin and they say, oh, I mean, 10 minutes for a block, that's a lot. Let's just do 5. And they don't think that there may be a reason why it's 10 and not 5. And they will try to tweak with every particular, they will try to tweak everything. And then eventually people understand that most of the characteristics of Bitcoin are actually not the starting point, but they are the arrival point from 20 years of experimentation and innovation in the cypherpunk movement that Michael was telling you about. So you have to understand a little bit all. In other disciplines, they are old enough that all the knowledge that you need to kind of understand something as being included into the discipline. While Bitcoin is still something, it's a strange beast which is across different disciplines. So you cannot really understand Bitcoin properly within a computer science framework, between a mathematical cryptography frameworks, between a finance investment frameworks, between a social political theory framework. You need them all. This is also why at George Washington universities, we will start with one course in economics, but then we will cultivate courses which are cross-faculty and cross-topic, because that's the important thing. So you need to go deep in Bitcoin because it's multidisciplinary, but also because it's adversarial. So most of the things we know about the world are wrong outside of our specialization field. There is a phenomenon which is called Gell-Mann amnesia. It was labeled by the physicist Murray Gell-Mann, the inventor of the quark theory. He said, every time I open a newspaper and I read something about physics and theoretical physics and particle physics, I know that it's all wrong. It's all a lie. Everything that I read is literally wrong. Then I will turn the page, I will read something about geopolitics or art and performance art, everything else, and I will believe it as it's true. I will forget that in my specific discipline, global communication was completely misguided, and I will forget that when I turn the page. That's true always and everywhere, but in Bitcoin, that's even more true. Because Bitcoin is an adversarial system, which is touching one of the most sensitive things in human civilization, which is money. There is a very, very strong incentive, a very strong temptation in printing money from thin air and giving that money to other people in exchange for something valuable. That's one of the strongest drives and one of the strongest temptations in human nature. Since we invented money, people try to print money. So initially, it was the market regulating the printing of money. If you print too much, well, initially it was gold, and then it was gold coins, and then they started to do seigniorage and the basement of gold coins, then the banknotes, then they started to do fractional reserve in banking. Then there was the centralization of money by the states. In the US, for example, you had free banking. Every bank was able to issue banknotes. Then you have state-level central banks, then federal-level central bank. Then with Bretton Woods, you basically had a world-level unique central bank, and then they went off the gold standard in 1971. So there is a very strong, there is a fight to get control of the money printer. And within Bitcoin, the fight is there, and it's still there since the beginning. Every year and every cycle of 4 years in Bitcoin, which is the typical price cycle and also mining halving cycle in Bitcoin, you will see a huge operation to separate you from your Bitcoins and from your sets. In the first cycle, the operation was, yeah, Bitcoin is just the first version, like the Model T for cars, like MySpace for social network, but now my coin is the next iteration. That was the first version. The second version was, yes, okay, I admit it, I acknowledge, Bitcoin is cool, Bitcoin is there to stay, but that's just a very boring use case. What about we create new coins to do something different? And so there was all the ICO craziness, which I think is getting back a little bit now with this new digital asset craziness, but it's the same thing. If you read, I think that one of the very important points of Bitcoin education and the Nakamoto Institute and also all the Bitcoin resources that you can find online is to go back and understand that every debate and every sales speech you can find in Bitcoin today was already done in 2013. We already done that. We already went through that. And then in 2017 again. And then in 2021 again. So time is very cyclical in Bitcoin. So the point is that everybody will try to forge a new narrative with one single goal, which is separate you from your Bitcoins. They may dress this narrative in different ways. In 2013, the appeal was to libertarians, hackers, computer programmers. It was a niche movement. In 2017, it was mostly day traders, amatorial investors, retail, aggressive retail speculators. In 2021, Bitcoin started to become interesting to nation states, at least one nation states, and public companies. And now we are going the fully institutionalized phase. So the clothes of the narratives are changing. They don't tell you ICO anymore. They tell you digital assets. but the goal is the same: separate you from your Bitcoin, because that's the most important thing to do when there is a scarce asset. There are only 21 million Bitcoins, divisible up to the 8th decimal point. So there are basically 2.1 quadrillion Satoshis, and there are many people that want to get a larger share of these scarce assets. And the way to get more Bitcoin is to sell you what, so I will now use a term that seems like not very appropriate for these institutional settings. I'm wearing a suit, I'm a suit coiner now. So but that is a technical word, shitcoins. I can say that because Congressman Davidson used the technical word inside a Congress hearing. So there is Bitcoin and there is shitcoins. The way they will sell, thank you. This goes to Congressman Davidson. He was a great Bitcoin educator during that day. And the way the shitcoin is dressed will be different. In 2017, it will be a retail, pseudo-technologically based ICO. Now, it could be paper Bitcoin. It could be basically options on futures, on promises, on checks, on paper Bitcoins. So the way you package the shitcoin changes. But the point is one: I think you should learn Bitcoin because I think you should get control, direct control, which is the last point, and then I'm finished. You should learn Bitcoin because you still have the chance. In many other topics, you cannot go around and speak directly with somebody. I mean, you cannot go around, if you study physics, and speak with Bohr or Heisenberg. You can go around here and speak with Dr. Adam Beck, which was mentioned in the white paper of Satoshi Nakamoto. You can speak with developers that work with Satoshi himself. So you still have the opportunity. Bitcoin is so small and so young yet that you have a chance to still kind of dominate it all. So it's a very unique intellectual opportunity that you have. And as a benefit and a side effect, you can learn how to get your Satoshis in your own wallet with your own private key, and you can learn how to avoid to be separated from your Bitcoin. Thank you.